Okay, hello. Now, about the custom bottoms on tubs, you can scuff those up if you want to, but that's just extra sanding. Just take your AP134 or MCP, it's the same thing. You can just put it, you can put some on, you're going to put a texture down, you can put some of that on a paper towel and just wipe it on. Make sure that you've got the area mask off that you want to use, that you want to put the custom texture on, and you can just either brush on the MCP or the 134 and or put some on a paper towel and just wipe it on, or roll it on, whatever you want to do. It's not necessary to spray it on. And then spray your coating over it. You can roll the texture on if you want, but on that one it was so big that we couldn't roll the texture on because when I was hanging over the tub with the spray gun, I had to have somebody else hang on to my belt to keep me from falling in the tub. But yeah, use your imagination and some common sense and you'll get your way through those situations. They're extremely rare, but that's some of the things that you can do. Now, spas, that's what we're going to talk about. And spas are a beast unto themselves. They are very difficult to deal with. One, because you've got water heated to usually over 100 degrees. You've got bromines and chlorines in there, and you've got a lot of oxygen because of the jets. And all of those factors, well, plus there's water, all of those factors give a spa probably one of the harshest environments that any bathing vessel could ever have. And manufacturers, DuPont has come out with a material to do spa repairs with. There was a company out here a while ago that was selling franchises for $15,000, and they had this wonderful new spa repair material. And I don't even think they're in business anymore. They said that their callback rate was about 10%. And then they wanted to sell you a $15,000 franchise to have a 10% callback rate? Forget it. I don't like to repair spas. It's hard work. Every time you have to do something or get something, you've got to crawl in and crawl out. You're going to see this on the videotape. But they're real difficult to do, and I had one callback on a spa that I repaired, and that's because the guy used some sort of solvent to wipe the tub out. This guy was a real particular kind of person, and I think he soaked it in Windex or something, and before he filled it up to clean it, and it removed some of the overspray. And when you're marbling, now on your videotape I didn't show you the marbling, but if you use a little common sense, you're going from a lighter color to a darker color, so you just add a little more, or you start out with your lighter colors and then add your darker colors to get your blending in, and you put it in and you try and follow it through, staying within as much as possible your scuffed area, and you try and get your darker colors on last, and you just marble those in. Like I said, use a little bit of creativity and common sense with it, and you'll be able to figure out how to get that marbling effect on there. But you're going to have some overspray out and beyond the area that you scuffed up. Don't worry about it. But explain to people before you go in that what you're using is a material that is more functional than it is attractive. I can't come up with the words right now. But the way I see it, it's more utilitarian than cosmetic. And what you're using is Gelcoat. And Gelcoat, like I said, I admire the product. It's a great product. It's very durable. They used to make spas coated with Gelcoats, but they had this problem of blistering and they've still got that problem with acrylics. And you know, spas are just pretty tough little creatures to deal with. Even jacuzzi has blistering problems. That the blisters are inherent in all types of fiberglass products, especially when they're underwater all the time. That's why you don't see it hardly ever on bathtubs. But on spas and hot tubs, where water is in there all the time, you see it. And you see it in the marine industry too. Boats have to have blisters repaired quite often. Now when you've got a crack or something in a spa, it's the same standard repair. With acrylics though, when you're grinding it out, acrylic tends to melt. And it doesn't throw out dust as much as it'll throw out chunks of hot acrylic. And when you're doing it sometimes along a crack, if you're going along a crack with your drill, it'll build up. Well, you can either wipe it out of the way with your finger, which you'll see, or just let it harden and it'll come off, or you know, it'll sand off when you're scuffing, you know, up the edges, you know, out around the repaired area. But you'll see it. It gets hot and it melts, and that's that. Now PVC, I don't even work on. I don't believe it's worth working on. And they make spas out of PVC. They also make spas out of ABS. And there's a welding method for ABS, but I don't believe in using it. One of the reasons that I just refuse to work on ABS is most ABS tubs, they don't have any fiberglass reinforcement on the back. What they use, they'll make a styrofoam mold for the tub to sit in. And so if there's a crack or something in the tub, you don't have anything behind it but styrofoam. And it's not very thick. 1/8 of an inch would be thick for ABS and PVC. And if you grind that out, well, your chemicals, once it hits that styrene's just going to melt away. And it's not worth working on them. So just walk away from them. If there's somebody out there that wants to work on ABS tubs and PVS tubs, let them. It's not worth the headache. But back to the spas, they do have the fiberglass backing. You do a standard repair and you put the gel coat on over it, but you thin that gel coat way down with acetone. Way down. Put on a little bit, put air on it. You'll see how that's done. What I'm going to go over now mostly is the blistering problem. Blisters come in all sizes. This big down to teeny tiny. But you're going to get a blister on a spa. Now the best thing to do is not to cut into this blister. Don't just go in there and say, gee, get that 3-inch or 5-inch 36 grit disc and grind it out. There's some finesse to use here. Get a number 7 sewing needle, a long nose vice grip pliers. This will be part of your inventory that you carry in the van. In your long nose pliers, put your needle about 1/4 of an inch in. Or I mean, leave about 1/4 of an inch of your needle sticking out the end of the long nose pliers. Your needle will be going back through. And then put that needle in. Push it in at an angle, a low angle, right at the bottom edge of that blister. Okay, and then pull it out. Take your heat gun, and remember, acrylic melts, so don't get over anxious with the heat. Because what you'll do is you'll just melt this acrylic, and it'll just, when acrylic melts, it just like separates. And then you'll have to grind it out and fill it. Heat it gently. Have a wet sponge, have some cold water there. And while you're heating it, rub that sponge over it. Heat it some more, put that cold water on there. Heat it some more, put some more cold water on there. Heat it and put cold water on there. And you're going to see a substance begin to leak out of here. Now, when you first stick that needle in and pull it out, be careful. This stuff down here this liquid that's causing this blister, this is called a catalyst blister. And the stuff that comes out of there is going to smell like MEKP, which is the catalyst used in polyester laminating resins. Now, what happens is there's a delamination in the glass. These are layers of glass here. There's a delamination and there's a buildup of the catalyst in here. Or there's a buildup of resins. They haven't quite yet figured out why this occurs, but it occurs and this is how to deal with it. When you pull that needle out, I've seen this stuff shoot out 4, 5, 6 feet. So don't be looking right at it when you do it, because you don't want this stuff in the face. Get out of the way, pull that needle back, and just let it drip out, apply heat to it, and you'll see that the heat, now the reason you're putting the cold sponge over there is that you're keeping this acrylic cool, but you're driving the heat down deeper and deeper, keeping the surface cool. That's the purpose of wiping that surface off with a cold water sponge. As you drive that heat down, it's going to force that liquid out. And when that happens, then this is going to leave a cavity down here. Now, acrylic has a memory, and it will begin to contract and to try, it's going to make an attempt to go back to its original position or shape, and that is to flatten back out. Now, it's never going to flatten back out perfectly, but it's going to flatten back out. You can also have a dowel, a 1-inch dowel, and then just take the end of this 1-inch dowel and round it off. So you've got a nice little rounded edge on here. And then as you're holding the heat on there, you can take that dowel and kind of roll it around against that blister. Don't press hard, just a little bit, because you're never going to get it back down perfectly flat. And then explain to your customer that don't worry about it, it's not going to leak. I've never seen a spa leak because you're putting holes in the blisters. It's not going to leak, don't worry about it. And the only time you really usually do this is when a spa is still under warranty. Now, if you've got to fix the spa, companies, jacuzzi, manufacturers are going to be saying to you, look, we'll send you our materials. No, 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 no. Don't use the manufacturer's materials to repair spas because I haven't found any of them that work. They work for a little while. But usually the manufacturers want you to guarantee your work for a year. Well, I tell them, I'll guarantee my work for a year, but if I have to use your materials, there's no guarantee. Because your materials don't work. Even DuPont's materials don't work that well. I've seen a spa come out of the factory that they did a factory repair that you could not see. I mean, it's great, it's shiny, it's color matched, it's wonderful, but put it underwater and I've seen them turn milky and start coming off. These people had the spa for 3 months. And this factory repair using the DuPont materials wasn't underwater for that complete 3 months. And it turned milky white and had to be all removed and repaired. So use your materials, and you'll find in your manual where to get that Gelcoat color matched at. You're going to need a 1-inch chip. Send it into these people, and you're going to get back a quart of color matched Gelcoat. And you're going to be getting some white Gelcoat from LBI, and you use that to lighten and darken it. And you can also pick up some tints from LBI for Gelcoat and use those. But explain to people right off, if you've got to do a color matched coating repair, a repair that you've got to use a color matched coating on, it's designed to be functional. It's not designed to be cosmetically perfect. And people understand that, and you tell them that, look, I have to live in this area and I have to work in this area, so I don't use the manufacturer's materials. I use my materials because I know they work. But the color match is not going to be absolutely perfect, and you might be able to see where the repair was, but you're not going to be able to see it very well. because I'm not going to do a real sloppy job. I'll do the best I can, but this material has limitations, but this is the best material available to do the repair. And believe me, like I said, I've repaired a lot of spas and I've never had a call back on them that was due to a failure of my work or a failure of my materials. On the blisters, as long as you can get them down a little bit, don't worry about them. And tell the people, as long as you can release the pressure or relieve the pressure of that catalyst that's causing that blister to raise up, that's softening that glass and that acrylic and causing it to raise up. As long as you can relieve that pressure by putting a hole around even a couple holes. Don't be afraid to put 2 or 3 or even 4 holes around a blister to make sure that you're relieving the pressure under there and providing an escape for that catalyst or that chemical solution that's in that blister to come out. And when they fill the spa back up and that material leaks out, it's going to leave a dark stain. And when it leaves a dark stain, people start getting worried. Well, if they have a vitamin C solution, it can be cleaned off with that. And all that is ascorbic acid. And all I got to do is grind up a vitamin C tablet, dissolve it in a little water, and use that to wipe it off, and it comes right off, and it's nothing to worry about. Now, and once you explain that to people, then there's usually no problem with them. Dog just came down and laid down. On a spa, I've refinished one spa that was about 8 feet by 10 feet. It was an oval, it was in a YMCA, it had blisters all over it, it had black spots all over it, and what was done to it is that the entire surface of this thing was ground down with 36 grit, and glass mat, 1.5 ounce mat, was laid over the whole thing, and then we thinned out Adtex number 14 filler with Adtex number 14 reducer at about a 50-50 level, which is more than what they recommend. Well, as a matter of fact, Adtex never tested it that high, but it works. And reduced it 1-to-1, 50-50, and then this was brushed on, because it gets thin enough to where you can brush it on. And then that was brushed on, and when you use the reducer with the number 14 filler, when it hardens, there's quite a tack left, a sticky substance left on the surface. And if you're going to be putting another polyester resin on top of it, you don't have to clean that off, that tacky surface off. It's almost impossible to sand off because it fills up your sandpaper immediately. You have to clean it off with a lot of acetone. But if you're going to be putting another polyester resin on top of it, another layer of glass or some more filler, then you don't have to wipe it off. But to put the Gelcoat on over that, it doesn't hurt to remove that tack, but you actually wouldn't have to, because the Gelcoat is a polyester and it will go on there and seal, and it'll eventually cure, and that tack meeting with the polyester resin will provide a chemical bond. Okay, but as long as your fill is still fresh, you can wipe it off and still get a chemical bond. But I tell you, I really think that you're going to get a better bond by leaving that tack on there. But again, if you're going to be sanding it off to put a polyurethane enamel on over it, you need to remove that tack with acetone and then do your sanding and then put your polyurethane enamel on top of that. But we just took some Gelcoat then and some brushes and brushed the Gelcoat on over the tub. The surface was lumpy. It wasn't, it wouldn't be irritating to a bare bottom, but it wasn't mold perfect. But you can refinish spas that way if you want to. But you're going to be finding a need to get into perhaps some sandblasting along the way, and it can be a real headache. I've got a spa that I'm working on now, or that I will be in the near future, that is about a 4 by 4 foot spa the bottom was worked on at one time, and what these people did I don't know, but I worked out a deal with the owner of this business. He doesn't want me to remove the glass that these people put down on the bottom, and they put the glass on it, but they really didn't need to. So I told him I want to take that glass off because I don't believe in putting my work over somebody else's work. Well, that would have cost close to $2,000. So he said he didn't want that. So I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll just do the bare minimum, but I'm only going to guarantee it for a year. I'll take off where the glass is separated, and I'll take off only up the sides where it's bad. And to do this, all I'm going to do is grind off where some of the glass is separated around the bottom and the radius around the sides. And they put this glass down, and some of it has bowed out, probably because they didn't scuff it up and provide the mechanical bond that should have been provided in this area out beyond where their glass and fill was going to go. So water's gotten down in here, and it's folding back. The glass down here seems to be fairly solid. So all I told him I was going to do is I'd I'd take out the bad parts, and I'd put a white, they're like a blue now, but I told him I'd put a white gel coat on, and I'd only bring it up the sides as far as I have to. And there's two ways I can do this. I can either mask around here and then scuff up to the masking, scuff up to that point there where the masking is with 120 grit or even 80 grit, and then just brush on gel coat up to that point. And I'll probably have to use some fill in here after I get done grinding down these corners and all that, but you know, that's no big problem. I can reduce it and just brush it in, and that way there's not going to be a whole lot of sanding. And I can either brush on the gel coat with the masking, I can roll it on, or what I can do is just not put any masking on and use my Croy with a 2.0 head and air cap and everything, assembly on it, 2.0 needle and air cap and so on, and spray it on by reducing it with acetone and working quickly, because you don't want this stuff to harden up in your fluid tubes or your gun. And then just spray it on and blend it up the top. The guy doesn't want a perfect job, and I told him, and he didn't want to pay more than $800. So I told him, okay, for $800 this is what you're going to get. It's going to be white, it's going to be blended up the top a little bit or cut off at a certain point, but I'm not going to try and color match it, and that's that. I figure I'd be able to do it in about a day and make $800. So that's something to consider. When you're getting into color matching, we're going to move on to another topic here, and that's going to be color matching your top coats. Diversified coatings, like I said, they have the best color matching in the industry. And you can use their product, but all you want to use is Advantage Plus. They've got 4 different systems. There's a Durability Plus, an Advantage, and an Advantage Plus. Use only their Advantage Plus. You can use anything they've got from their Advantage Plus system, and it will work with Imron. It will work with the system that I'm instructing you to use. But when you're out in the field and you've got an older tub, or you've got an offbeat manufacturer that called something bone and it's not, or whatever, you're going to have to do some color matching, some adjusting of these colors. Get a set of tints from Diversified Coatings, and or get some tints from your local PB&E. PB&E is Parts, Body, and Equipment. That's the place where all your auto body people go to get their paints. And that's where they go to get their spray guns and equipment and everything they need to do their job. And these people are a great source of information. But get a set of tints. You can either order it from DC, Diversified Coatings, or go down to your local PB&E and get a set of Imron tints. Now the only thing you're going to need in tints, don't get anything more than like 4 ounces. You know, and you might have to take in bottles to the PB&E guy if you're not going to order from Diversified. 4 ounces is going to be enough to last you a long time. And all you need is some yellow oxide. We call it ox. Some red ox. Some blue. Black. And by the way, Imron's black tint is the same as Imron black. Except when you buy Imron black, you pay a lot more for it than when you buy Imron black tint. They have 2 numbers. One is for the tint and one is for the top coat, but they're the same thing. And you can use their tints actually as a top coat, but it's not really worth it. What you want to do, let's see, outside of your yellow, red, blue, and black, you might want to get a green. And that would be about the only ones I could think of that you'd need. Sometimes a violet comes in handy if you have to do any matching with American Standard's plumb line colors, because they have a little bit of violet in their sterling. And because of sterling, you can ask DC about it, but I've learned how to match American Standard's plumb line of sterling silver by using, I lighten it up with I use 1 part of the standard sterling silver color from DC and 3 parts China white and a couple dashes of violet, and that gets me there. But this is how you're going to learn to match colors. Eventually you're going to end up with, you could end up with a couple dozen, 3 dozen colors that you're carrying around with you. And you probably noticed in one of the videos, my repair tub, I've got 2-ounce Nalgene wide mouth bottles that I keep every color that I've got in that repair tub, so I can use it when I'm in the field. Jersey cream, French vanilla come in handy when I have to lighten something up with yellow. Green. Green and yellow usually go together. And whenever you've got a yellow, you've got some green. And whenever you've got a green, you've got some yellow. But the more colors, the more 2-ounce bottles or 4-ounce bottles of color you have with you, the better you can color match, because you can mix and match these colors, and after a while you'll learn, well, gee, if I want to match Acre white, I can use China white with a dash of black and a touch of yellow. Or if I want to match Lasco bone, which happens to be a real yellow bone, I can add a little more yellow to American Standard's bone. Maybe I don't want to use yellow ox. Maybe I want to use French vanilla or Jersey cream. And just experiment. And it's going to take you some time. And you're going to get frustrated working on it. Expect it. But that's how you learn. And there's nothing I can tell you that's going to do it for you. You're just going to have to get out there in the field and do it. So pick up some of these tints. And when you start, I'll mention this again too, but when you start buying supplies, don't buy gallons and all this other kind of stuff. You know, buy quarts of fill, you can buy gallons of acetone and gallons of 85-95, gallons of even isopropyl alcohol, and you can buy gallons of China white. But everything else, don't buy any more than what you have to buy, because it'll be sitting on your shelf for a long time. Next, we're going to go and discuss some testing methods. Now, when I test a product that I want to test on, let's say, a new surface, one way that you want to have a control all the time. Put your coating on, scuff it up with whatever you're going to scuff it up with, or whatever primer you're going to use. But the conditions that you want, the worst condition for anything is to have it underwater. So let's say you want to test to see if something's going to stick to acrylic. So you get a piece of acrylic. Put a piece of tape down the middle of it, and that'll separate your sides. Well, on this side, do it the old way. And then on this side, do it your new way. This will be your control, the old method, the way that you know works. The way that is different than this way, but you know that this one's going to work. So you put your new method on one side or the other, the old true method, tried and true method on the other one. And let's say you want to see if a coating sticks to acrylic without scuffing it up. Well, this side then you'd scuff it up, and then this side you wouldn't scuff up. Or you'd use a primer, whatever you're going to do on this side. And then you put the top coat over the whole thing. Well, then you let it cure for 24 to 72 hours, whatever you want to do. If you're pressing for time, then limit yourself down to time. If you're pressing for whatever, do that, get your conditions met, and put it underwater. Now if you let it sit underwater then for a couple days after you feel it's been cured, or you've let it cure as much as you want it to, then you take it out and you draw hash marks, which is taking your utility knife or razor blade and drawing hash marks in this to create a lot of open edges. Okay, once you do that, then you take a piece of duct tape and put over that, making sure it's dry and doesn't have any wax or oil on it. Press it on there real good. And then pull your duct tape off. Most of the time, even DuPont uses a masking tape. Now, I read that when they tested their material for spa repair, they said that they put it in a spa underwater for 6 hours. And did cross-hatched it and did a tape pull method using masking tape. Well, 6 hours is nothing. You could almost get bubble gum to stick for 6 hours. So put it underwater for whatever period. If you can pull your duct tape off, now duct tape will stick to air, and duct tape, you get it on here and pull it off. If this stuff stays on here, it adheres to the surface after you attempt to pull it off with duct tape, you've got good adhesion. Stick it underwater for a longer time. Let it sit there for as ever long as you want it to. On one of my tests, I let it sit for 5 months. I pull it out once a month, clean it off, do the tape pull test on it, stick it back in water and let it sit there. And I mean, this water got rank after a while. I'd have to put fresh water in. So that's how you do a test to experiment with your different coatings, primers, whatever you want to do. Just thought I'd throw that in there for you. Now, if you've ever, we're going to change the subject again, and we're going to go to redoing a tub that you've done once. Not stripping it. If you need to strip a tub, it's pretty simple. I guess I'll talk about that now. But if you need to strip a tub, you're going to use towel strips, towel saw, no, it's towel saws, towel strip, aircraft, for aircraft coatings. They've got two types. Use the strongest for aircraft coatings, which is basically what Imron is, an aircraft coating. And if you see these trucks, these semi-18-wheelers driving down the road, and they've got these off-white colored hubs on their wheels, and that's probably Imron Fleet White, which is Imron China White. That's what you're going to be putting on all the tubs that people want in white, is Imron 508U Fleet White. But you call it China White, which is what manufacturers, I mean all the tub suppliers out there, usually their white is called the China White. Once you get that on there, your towel strip on a tub, you got to be careful. If you've got a plastic surround, don't get this stripper on it. And you have to use your respiratory protection on this stuff too, because the methylene chloride in there, it's heavier than air, and it's going to sit down in the bottom of the tub. And you don't smoke, you don't need fire around any of this stuff. But if it's heavier than air, like acetone, you've got your head down in there. You could have your head down in there for the rest of your life. So use respiratory protection. What you want to do is spread your towel strip on the tub, and you're going to see it start bubbling off. And all you do then is take a razor blade and start scraping it off. If it doesn't come off, then take a razor blade and put some more on it, then take your razor blade back over it. And then after that, also be careful, because this stripper will damage Corian. It'll turn Corian real soft and white. Also linoleum, it loves to attack linoleum, so be careful, it's powerful stuff. And keep working on it, and then what I do is I'll go over the whole tub with a liquid stripper. You can get this at Kmart, you can get it at a hardware store, local paint store. It's a liquid, no-wash stripper. A lot of people make it. Liquid, no-wash stripper. And I use a medium steel wool. And what you do is you get a little pail, or you just dump some in the bottom of the tub, and use your nitro gloves when you're working with stripper, or lacquer thinner, because your latex gloves, exam gloves, won't hold up. And I lost my train of thought. But anyways, what you do is you take your steel wool, and I like to use a little bucket. An old coffee can works. Dip your steel wool in it, and then go over the tub and wipe it off with a paper towel, and then just do that. And what you're doing there is taking off. Sometimes tubs have a lot of waves in them, and it's real hard to get down into those dips. Well, this will make sure, using the steel wool, that you get those out. And then you can even go over the tub with like a 120 wet and dry. And that's how you strip a tub. And do it once and you'll know how to do it forever. But let's say you do a tub, you refinish a tub, and for heaven's sakes, don't ever try to strip a fiberglass tub with towel strip. It will take the gel coat right off the tub, and then you've got a major monster mess on your hands. I've never stripped a fiberglass tub. I never will strip a fiberglass tub. Before I do that, if I ever mess up bad enough when I refinish a whole fiberglass tub to where I'd have to strip it, first I try and go back and do repairs, spot repairs on it forever before I tried to strip it. And I think I'd give the people back their money, because it wouldn't be worth trying to strip it. Let's say you have a tub that you've got just a whole lot of runs and sags in it, or this is specific to what I'm going to be doing here. I had a problem doing a tub that the hose became loose on one of the connections on the Croy. Now the couplers on the Croy, you can use a standard garden hose coupling system on your Croy. I recommend finding the brass ones. But I've got the gun is coupled on with these garden hose parts. I had a problem with the hose, and turning it came loose, and I didn't realize it, so I didn't have the pressure at the end of my nozzle that I thought I needed, that I did need, but I wasn't aware of it, and so I put my primer on thick, a lot thicker than I thought I was. And I had this overall silicone effect that I've talked about before on these tapes. And I put twice as much material on this tub as I should have. And then in cleaning up afterwards, it finally loosened up enough to where I felt the air coming out. And I realized right then and there that I'd had a pressure drop, and that's what caused my problems. Well, due to the mess the tub's in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to take out, the people aren't worried about some of the runs and sags, because the only way you can see them is by holding your 50-watt reflector lamp right up against the edge of the tub from this angle here, and shining the light down the side of the tub, and then you can see every little imperfection. Now they're going to never do that because it's going to be pretty dark in there. Once in a while you'll find people with lights above their tubs, and trying to do a repair under those conditions is pretty massive. But they didn't say anything about it. But I called them back once I got out of there, and I told them that I'm going to come back and do their tub, redo their tub. But all I'm going to do is knock down, go over the tub with 320 wet, knock down some of these, these little tiny runs and sags I've got in here that they couldn't even see. So they're not very big, but they bother me. And I'm going to go back and hit the tub with 320 wet. And what I'm going to do is clear coat it. Now, if I sand through the top coat, then I'll just shoot the tub again with China, mask it and shoot it again with China white. But if I can keep from going through that tub coating, what I'm going to do is shoot it with 220, or not 222. What I'm going to do is shoot it with clear, Imron clear. And there's a couple clears, but I'll get into those a little later. But I'm going to use 500S Imron clear and just shoot the tub with clear, because I don't need to use China white. And clear is a whole lot cheaper. It's like, I don't know, $10, $15 a quart. There's another way that you can do it. If you don't want to sand the tub, there's something else. You can use 222S, which is a mid-coat adhesion promoter. It's like a glue for polyurethane enamels, and you can put that on and then just shoot your polyurethane enamel over that, your next coat. Let's say you do a tub and it looks great, but it's the wrong shade. Somehow after it dries it's dark or something. That happened once to me with sterling silver when American Standard changed their shade to sterling silver. And all you'd have to do is go back and very lightly sand the tub with maybe 400. Put that 222S on there and put your next color right over that. And if you don't want to use the 222S, which will give that chemical bond, then sand the whole tub with 320 real good, and put your next top coat over that. One thing that if you do a tub and you're going to go back and reshoot it for some reason, try and get back there under 24 hours. Because if you go back in less than 24 hours, you don't have to sand the tub. Just wash it, with a little acetone, tack it, and shoot it. That's all you got to do. You wouldn't even have to wash it with acetone as long as nobody's been in it. Just go back, leave your masking on there if you can, and then just go back and tack it and shoot it again. And that first coat will still be fresh enough in less than 24 hours to get a chemical bond between the two, so you don't have to sand it to get a mechanical bond. And so there's some choices that you've got when you have to go back. You can either clear coat it, you can use the 222S between a mid-coat adhesion promoter, or if it's over 24 hours, like I said, then you'd want to sand it, use the 222S. I hope that was clear, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you're back there under 24 hours, you don't have to do anything but tack it and shoot it. If it's over 24 hours, then you want to look at perhaps sanding it or using the 222S. Follow the directions on the back of the 222S. Sometimes they change. Manufacturers will occasionally change their product, and usually they put a notification on the label on that. Alrighty, now talking about color charts. You're going to want to contact the Bemis Church Seat Company in Wisconsin and get their recent color charts. Give them a call, numbers in your manual. Get that color chart. It's got all the colors going back to the harvest golds and the pinks and everything else they used to put on tubs. DC carries all those colors. Also, go to a local plumbing store and get a Kohler color chart and an American Standard color chart. And when people call you up and say, gee, well, I want you to, it's a light beige, or it's an off yellow or something like that, tell them, I need to know the manufacturer's color. What, if you want your tub to match your new toilet, you've got to tell me what color the manufacturer called the color of that toilet. Or if, get the name of the manufacturer of the toilet and what they called that color. I had an off the wall manufacturer of a toilet here recently, and they called the color mushroom/bone. Well, it was a little lighter than bone, which made it a lot lighter than, well, it was a little lighter than American Standard's bone, which made it a lot lighter than Kohler's almond. But Kohler just recently came out with a new color called biscuit, which is lighter than American Standard's bone. Now these bones and biscuits and almonds really confuse people. So you got to watch what you're doing. And so get that color chart, and if you have to, get a couple extra color charts and mail them out to people if they don't know what color they want. Just mail them the color chart and enclose an SASE, which is a self-addressed stamped envelope. You put your own address on it and put stamps on it so they can look at the chart, and give them a piece of paper in there. They can write down which number code they want and send the chart and their choice back to you. And that saves a lot of hassle. I've had people bring over the tops to their toilet. They've got an old bathroom with a weird color in it, and they'll bring over the top to their toilet, and because the tub needs redone, but they don't want to buy a new toilet and a new sink. They want the tub done in the same color. So I said, well, bring your toilet top to me, and you know, one of the mornings I'm working in the office or whatever, and then I'll take my Bemis chart out there and find out the closest color that we can get to it. And I tell them, look, I'm not going to try and match it. Matching a repair when you're dealing with a couple ounces of color, you know, it's bad when you're dealing with 6 ounces on a tub bottom, a soft bottom repair, trying to match that up. But trying to match up, you know, 8 to 12 to 16 ounces of material to redo a whole tub with is just not worth it. And so you let them choose the color. If you let them choose the color and it's off, you know, you're out of the picture. Well, this is the picture, this is the color you chose. And also, if you go look at a toilet in a plumbing shop and then you go take it to your house and put it in your bathroom, it can look different. It can appear to be a different color. Different materials. Toilets are vitreous china, tubs are porcelain or gelcoat or acrylic, and your coating is a polyurethane enamel. All of those things are going to look a little different, especially under different light. Fluorescent light puts out, I believe, a blue. Incandescent puts out a red. And you can get some fluorescents that interior painters use because the light waves are matched to the waves of the sun, which will give the truest color reflection under an artificial lighting situation. And that's why I tell you to use those reflector bulbs in your utility lamps, because they are known to give a very close to true color reflection. So get your color charts. Also go to your local PB&E store, shop, and get an Imron color chart. And also ask them for an Imron heavy equipment color chart. That's going to give you all the yellows and greens, the Caterpillar and John Deere and some of the other folks out there that Imron matches colors to. Alrighty, now next we've got coating manufacturers of polyurethane enamels. And this is where things get, I'll probably be raising the hair on the back of a few people's neck when I go into this. But there are several manufacturers of polyurethane enamels out there. A polyurethane enamel is not a polyurethane acrylic enamel. It's a polyurethane enamel. And DuPont's Imron, as I said, is what you're using. Well, PPG, Ditzler, makes a polyurethane enamel called Durethane. And they've even got a list of colors, old colors that they match to appliances. It's they have Westinghouse colors in there and everything. So Ditzler, or PPG, their Durethane, D-U-R-A-T-H-A-N-E, is a polyurethane enamel. As is Sherwin-Williams Sunfire. as is Sterling's marine coating. Sterling makes an excellent coating. This stuff is so hard and shiny. It's unbelievable. It's a great material, used mainly on boats. Petit, P-E-T-T-I-T, I believe, makes a polyurethane enamel that's used on boats as well. Imron's used on boats, but it's mostly known for heavy equipment and aircraft. Now, All Grip. I believe All Grip is made by U.S. Paint. There's two kinds of All Grip. They've got All Grip 1 and All Grip 2. And I don't know who of the people out there, of the individual tub suppliers, there's, there's Hawk, there's Napco, they're both out of Chicago. There's Diversified Coatings, there's Surebond, Neil Monroe's product. There's European Porcelain. Well, I have a feeling European Porcelain is probably using the product that goes on Mercedes, which is a glass writ, and it's a company that produces a polyurethane enamel in Germany. Sikkens out of Holland produces a polyurethane enamel. But All Grip is well known in the marine industry as a great coating, but I know that All Grip 1 and 2, both types, are being used by independent suppliers to tubbers. I don't think Petit's being used, but it could be. I don't think Sterling's being used because I know the people at Sterling have an inventory of some stuff that they color match that is just sitting around doing nothing. I don't think anybody's using Sherwin-Williams Sunfire, but they could be. Most everybody is using All Grip or Imron. And you're going to hear stories out there that, oh my gosh, this stuff contains ground glass. That's what makes it hard and shiny. Or this stuff is a liquid porcelain. Or this stuff is a synthetic porcelain. There's no such thing. Ground glass, you're going to put that in a bathtub and rub your bare behind over it? No, I don't think so. There was a company somewhere that tried to put a type of silicone in their coating. Well, glass is a type of silicone, and it's melted sand, and it gets a lot more complicated than that. But because that was in there, they tried to say, well, gee, it's got glass in it. No, I don't think so. That's not going to work. Glass, like porcelain, is not liquid. It's not an organic coating. Porcelain is an inorganic coating, and your organic chemicals that are used to manufacture the polyurethane enamels are organic coatings. So you're going to call an inorganic coating an organic coating, and an organic coating an inorganic coating. No, forget it, it doesn't work. As one of the quality control scientists at American Standard told me one time, he said, geez, if there was a way to spray on porcelain, if there was a liquid or synthetic porcelain that we didn't have to heat up to 1700 degrees or 1500 degrees, he said, that'd be great, man. We've been beating the bushes for generations trying to find a product like that. Because if we could shut down our kilns and lay off all the people that we have to have around to do this work, he said, we'd save a lot of money. So what we're dealing with is people who are coming up, they're using an everyday product adapted from the aerospace industry. They're using a product adapted from the automotive finish industry. They're using materials adapted from the marine coating or finish industry, and they're calling it space age technology, a brand new, wonderful, marvelous product, and it's all a bunch of bunk. You know, I'm sorry. There's no miracles out there in the coating industry. And for the tubbing industry, nobody is going to spend the money it takes to develop and research and develop and research a product just for tubs. The industry isn't big enough to justify that kind of an expense by any manufacturer of coating materials. It's not going to happen. Everything in the tub industry has been adapted from another industry. So if you hear about space-age technology and all these wonderful promises and everything, it's somebody hasn't been told the complete truth about it, let me put it that way. So you're going to be using Imron. And I have thoroughly tested Imron with Diversified Coatings Advantage Plus. Every product used in Diversified Coatings Advantage Plus is compatible with Imron. Now there are some companies out there that could use some reverse engineering. They could take any one of these polyurethane enamels and any one of these products and take it to a chemist of some type and through reverse engineering develop a generic type of that product, which may not be as good, or it, who knows, might be even a little better. But I doubt it. DuPont's got a lot more money than anybody I know. And what they do then is they save a lot of money because they don't have to buy, let's say, a product from Sickens or Glassred or Pettit or DuPont. They can, now find a paint manufacturer and have them manufacture the paint and make up formulas for the colors and everything else that they need to match the plumbing fixture and the plumbing industry colors. So instead, I'm not going to mess around with trying to test Neil Monroe's products or European Porcelain's products or Hawk's products or an advertisement. Once you get in the yellow pages, you're going to be getting a lot of advertisements from around unique refinishers out of Atlanta and Detroit. I think it's SPR Industries also, could be, I might be mistaken on that, but Unique Refinishers are advertising that they have an isocyanate free reglazing material. What it is, I don't know, but what I'm saying is here, now if it's free of isocyanates, it makes it a lot safer to use, but I don't see any new technology that, now if somebody came up with something like a liquid porcelain, gee, they could sell it to American Standard and Elger and Kohler and retire to some, they could buy some South Pacific island and retire for the rest of their lives. But something along the lines of an isocyanate-free coating, I would have to put that through some very thorough testing before I would go out and put it in the field. And this hasn't been out long enough to justify the time and effort it would take for me to put it through the testing. But there are a lot of different kind of materials being pushed on the market. But I'll tell you, DuPont's Imron is the most dependable that I've ever heard of, ever worked with. But again, you can use Imron in any of the Imron products interchangeably with Diversified Coatings Advantage Plus system. I've put it through thorough testing, and I'm not saying that Diversified Coating uses Imron or a generic type of Imron. I don't have any idea. All I know is that the two are compatible, and that Diversified Coating does an excellent job of matching colors. It's the best in the industry, and these are the people to go to for your coatings. As far as your colors, you can get your China White from your local PB&E people, your automotive finish shop. But when it comes to colors, go to Diversified Coatings. Also, Diversified Coatings is like a one-stop shop. You can get everything you need from two sources, LBI and Diversified Coatings. I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head except for a blower, which you can get from a local heating supply wholesaler, and your heat ducts. But if you want to pay out a lot of money, then you can get a Fasco, blower from Diversified Coatings.
and the hose is necessary, but you're going to be spending several $100s compared to like $175 for the blower and the heat ducts, if that much. But anyways, if you're not into running around town or running to another town for supplies or whatever, one-stop shop, LVI and Diversified Coatings. Okay, now that's the story on the coatings, and you know, like I said, I don't know who's using what out there, and I'm not going to try and say who's using what out there, but that the names of the manufacturers of polyurethane enamels are just about covers a gamut of what everybody is using for tubs. Now, the primers are this, I think I mentioned it before, there's a vinyl primer that's yellow, there's a gray primer that it's an epoxy primer. Sterling makes a great epoxy primer that you can use on porcelain. They adapted it, they devised it, designed it, developed it especially for use with porcelain. And it's real impractical to try and get it from Sterling, but what you could do is get a product extremely similar to that from Diversified Coatings. But you're not going to have to use an epoxy primer because you've got AP 134. And that is the only primer I've found that will stand up to open edges. I don't even think Europrime would stand up to open edges. But when you need a high build primer, Europrime is the way to go. Now on your clear coats, 572U is a part number for Imron's Balancing Clear or Extender for the lighter colors of top coats. It is not a top coat. It is probably very similar to 500S Imron Clear, but probably the major difference between 500S Imron Clear Coat and 572U is that 572U doesn't have the UV inhibitors, and you want to have the UV inhibitors because otherwise you're going to be you're going to see a yellowing of your top coat due to exposure to sun rays and so on. Now, not many bathtubs are exposed to a lot of sun, but nevertheless it's good to have it in there. 572U should be used with the 195S activator. Now this is a good time for me to talk about the 195S. Well, no, I'll just cut that out and get to it later. The 572U, you can use that to extend up to 50% your China white or bone. But the more you put a clear in there, the less coloring, the less solids, the less tint is in your top coat. So that means you're going to have to put more on, which means that you stand more of a chance of having runs and cracks and sags. It increases your cost, and if you use it with darker colors, it's going to lighten the darker colors. I like to cut my black by about 50% when I do a black tub because I've got to put more on, but boy, that thing comes out looking very nice. So 572U is great, but it has to be used with the 195S activator, which I'll get into here in a second. Your colors, as I've said before, 508U is China white for the tubbing industry. It's fleet white for the automotive industry, but that's what you use for China white. And all your other colors get from DC, Diversified Coatings. They're the best in the business. Systems for activators, Imron uses two, a 192S and a 195S. You will use only 195S. Experiment with 192 if you want to, but I found it to be not worth my time. It's not as good, it's not as fast to cure, and I'm just sold on the 195. Now 195S was called a high solids activator, now it's called a medium solids activator. I don't know why. DuPont's been around long enough and Imron's been around long enough that I figure they can call 195S whatever they want. I'm going to use it until they come out with something that they say is better, and then I'll experiment with it before I put it in the field. The 195S is the only thing that you use, and again, you use the 195S with your top coats with anything from Diversified Coatings Advantage Plus system. So remember, 195S is your activator. That stuff is about $43 for 16 ounces. Not cheap. Also, while I'm on 195S, this is what contains your isocyanates. Now I'll get into isocyanates right now. The isocyanates, there's diisocyanates, and there's a number of different isocyanates. You want to stay away from isocyanates. What the reaction, if you have an allergic reaction to isocyanates, you probably just put yourself out of business. An allergic reaction to the isocyanates has one main symptom. You can't breathe. Also, you can get rashes and several other symptoms. But, and you can call your local state OSHA department and get the information on that if you want to. But with your isocyanates, that's what your respiratory protection is for. Now, you're going to see in the videos that I use a dual cartridge respirator when I spray. And when you put 195S into your top coat systems then have the isocyanates in them. So when you're spraying, part of the mist in the air is isocyanates. Now 3M has a system out that is, oh geez, I've got it somewhere down in here, but I'll get to the part numbers later. But they've got a disposable respiratory face mask out that I think costs about $15. That you use it for a little while and then throw it away. And once it's been unsealed for 5 days, you got to throw it away. And it's good for isocyanate filtration up to I think 0.02 parts per million within a certain specified time. All that gets kind of complicated with total weight allocated numbers and everything else, but all you got to know is that you do not want to breathe isocyanates. You cannot taste isocyanates, you cannot smell them, but they're there. But there's going to be enough other stuff in the air that you're going to be able to smell that, gee, I'm spraying top coats. There's some nasty stuff in the air and I don't want to breathe it. So, as I said, you're going to see me using the half-face dual cartridge North respirator with organic vapor and acid gas cartridges in it. Now when I use the Croy, I've got it down to where I'm using extremely low pressure and very little fluid coming out. Like I said, I do an average tub with 8 ounces of base material and 40 cc's of 195S, and then of course the 85-95 reducer. And I'm also pulling through that room a minimum of 800 CFMs. Now if I'm doing a big job like a tub shower unit or a tub and tile, you know, I tend to stop spraying once in a while just to let the room clear out. I don't like using supplied air respirators. They're nice, they provide air blowing on your face. It makes it a lot easier to breathe because you don't have to suck the air through these cartridges. But I don't like hauling around the extra hose and everything else. But I fully recommend that you make that $550, $575 investment when you're just starting out to use that fresh air respirator. You can use it until perhaps you feel that you've got a good handle on it. But I'm going to go on record right here and now. Use supplied air respiratory systems.
Now the best one you can find on the market is made by Survive Air, and you can get it from LBI. And they've probably got some of the best prices on them in the country. Also, if you're going to be working on a spa or something like that, you know, having a hose that you got to drag around with you, an extra hose, or just one, can be a pain. But all you have to do is be overcome by isocyanates and have an allergic reaction. Like I said, you just put yourself out of business, and because you will not ever be able to be around isocyanates again. And so again, spend that initial money. I've had 2 fresh air supplied respiration systems, and like I said, they're nice in certain ways, but your organic vapor respirator does take out isocyanates, but you can't smell when the isocyanates have gotten big enough, or have gotten where your cartridges have become saturated with them, where it'll no longer remove them from the air that's going through there. You can't smell it. You can smell all the other garbage that's in the air, and after you store your vapor respirator in 2 or 3 layers of plastic, and you pull it out and put it on, and it smells like you just stuck your head in your slop bucket, it's time to change. I changed mine more than that. Cartridges cost anywhere from $3.50 to $4.50 a piece. So every time you throw them out, you're talking $7, $8, $9 that you're throwing out. But that's a lot better than finding yourself in a position where you can't breathe. That can be kind of scary. Now, if you get out in fresh air, you're going to breathe again, but that's a reaction. It stops the respiratory system. And don't mess with it. Get that fresh air supplied respiratory system and use it. I figured it up, and as far as I can tell, that you can do that with your initial investment of $2,000 for equipment. It's worth it because you don't know what you're doing. You're learning. Don't try and cut corners. Don't try and mess with your health. Get that fresh air supplied respirator and use it. Now, onward. I hope you're taking more breaks than I am during this. Okay. Now, I went over Urocrime with you. Again, keep a little of it on hand, carry it in your van, because if you get out there on a job where you need it and you don't have it, you could be way out in the country and then you just lose a day's work. That might not be so bad either. You could go fishing or do something fun. But keep some of the Urocrime in the van with you. Now there's a product out there that you're going to use when you do cultured marble vanities in bathrooms or kitchen counters. Now you can use the high gloss coatings that you use on your tubs for kitchen counters and vanities, cultured marble vanities too, for mica counters and cultured marbles. You can use the high gloss, but it's a pain. Because when you get that in somebody's bathroom and they've got bright lights over it, it shows every little imperfection, every little dust nub, and like I said, Imran, your top coating is not going to hide scratches and so on, so they're going to show through. And get a flattener for Imran. The number for that flattener, and it's going to be in your manual, is 929-5050. That is a flattener. What that means is it takes the gloss out and gives your coating a satin finish. Some people might even like tubs. I know that there's some people out in California that do tubs with a satin finish. That's a great idea. I mean, geez, you don't even have to worry about dust. You don't have to worry about being perfect because the light doesn't reflect off of it, showing every little imperfection that can be there. But get the 929-5050 flattener for your countertops. Experiment to get the satin that you want. Follow the instructions that come with it. And there's another source. You can buy Advantage Plus from Diversified Coatings with the flattener already in it. So do it whichever way you want. But I fully recommend you use the flattened top coat, the satin finish top coat on countertops. Now we're going to show you some pictures here of a tub that I did for shows at fairs, at malls, or whatever. I found that the shows are a real pain for me. I've got to be there 12 hours a day. I can't be out in the field working and making money, and I just found that it wasn't worth it. However, I do know tubbers out there that they'll be at a show for a week and get 15 jobs out of it, which more than pays for their week off and all the hours they have to spend. But then you got to start moving this tub around and everything else. But if you want to get into the shows, here's what I did with a 1922 Kohler footed tub. The inside and outside was done in black. Again, I cut it 50-50 with 572U. And there are several coats on that tub. And you have to find somebody that works in the auto body industry or set up your garage so you've got a dust-free environment. Now the legs I used a gold on. As a matter of fact, it was Sterling's gold. But you can even get a spray can of gold at Kmart or something and put on the legs. Or you can get, I believe Imron has a gold that you could put on there. And do it that way. But that's your show. So, next, I am going to take a break right now, and next we're going to get into the inventory that you need to carry with you in your van or vehicle at all times. I'll be right back. Okay, we're going to finish up the lecture by talking about your inventory of products that you're going to need to take with you in your vehicle, and that some of them you'll just have to have back at wherever you store your stuff at. Now I've gone through, I've talked to you about LBI's Smooth and Glaze and their Snow White. They're the greatest source for fiberglass materials that you'll find. In your manual you'll find a list of everything that you're going to need. There's going to be some of the things that I haven't mentioned in here that I'm going to be mentioning on the demonstration tapes. But all in all, there's going to be an inventory list for you in the manual, so you'll be able to find everything there. I'm going to try and make it as simple as I possibly can for you. Now, you're going to need to carry with you everything that you're going to need to do every job out in the field. A couple of things that come to mind that you're not going to need to carry with you all the time. One product is called a stir lid. Now this is a lid that goes on a gallon-sized can, and that's what you're going to use when you buy a gallon can of your 508U China White. Take the old friction top off of it, put this stir lid on there and close it up, and then just stir it 100 times before you pour out the China White into the 16-ounce plastic bottle that you use to carry it out in the field. Other than that, you'd have to open it up, you'd have to shake it and stir it with a stick and everything else. Is the best way to do it. Just stand there and twirl it around 100 times and it's mixed. Your stripper, what goes in your strip bucket, you're not going to have to take with you all the time, only on jobs that you have to strip a tub. And you know, there's no need to carry it around if you don't have to. There's going to be enough stuff in your vehicle. You want to get some foam sweat bands, and you'll see those in there. But if you sweat heavy, you have to watch it, because you don't want the sweat dripping down onto the tub while you're working, because as I said, water and urethanes do not get along together.
So if you do sweat, if you expect to sweat, get some of these foam sweat bands. You put them under cold water and you wring them out and you put them on, and believe me, they work. They're great at that. Your blender, when you get some blender, don't buy a gallon of it. Geez, buy, if you can, only 8 ounces of it, or 16 ounces of it. You're not going to need much of it. Isopropyl alcohol, you can get a gallon of that. If you have a hard time locating 100% isopropyl alcohol, I repeat, 100%. Rubbing alcohol is 70% isopropyl alcohol. But with the 100% isopropyl alcohol, probably look under chemicals in the yellow pages, industrial chemicals, and make a few phone calls. You'll locate a source for it locally. Or you could probably get some from Diversified Coatings or LBI. Now, isopropyl alcohol is a great solvent. I mean, this is what they use in hospitals to sterilize the thermometers and all that. Well, I don't know, they're going with digital disposable thermometers now. But this is what you're going to use to clean up, even if the heat duct rubs on somebody's woodwork and it leaves a black mark on their wall or their woodwork. Put some isopropyl alcohol on a Bounty paper towel and go over it lightly and fast. You don't want to dissolve that latex coating on the wall, but go over it and it'll clean it right off of latex paint. And you can use that to clean off your overspray on anything. And it's like a lighter fluid. It's not really strong enough to hurt a lot of things. Be real careful with any solvent around this vinyl, metallic foil type wallpaper, because you just wipe the color right off of it and nothing flat. But your isopropyl is a real mild solvent and very good to use. I'm going over a list of inventory here, but you don't have to take notes of, to make sure that you have everything, because you're going to find the inventory in the manual. Now I talk about tweezers on here. That's for picking up dust nubs, safety pins. Leave them open. You find a hair in a tub that you're working on, pick it up with the safety pin or the tweezers. It's the best way to get it out. Now, masking tape, I've got a Sam's here in town and they sell masking tape. I can get 12 1-inch rolls for a little over $6, or 6 2-inch rolls for a little over $6. Mask or duct tape's the same. Buy it however you want it. LBI sells it. It would be their number 2005. That masking tape works real good. Or just pick up a half a dozen rolls at Kmart or whatever. You're going to pay a little bit more for it that way. But then you have to remember that whatever you order, you got to pay shipping for. But you have to weigh that against how much it's going to cost you in time and effort to go out and get it at the store, rather than just having it delivered at your house. Now, on safety additive, that's your texture. There's people out there that sell safety additive all over the place, but you can get the safety additive from Diversified Coatings. They handle the best there is that I've found. It works great. It's wonderful. And you'll also find in your manual a company that manufactures what I'm sure the same thing, but it's more expensive. You have to contact them and then find out their local distributor and then get it from the local distributor. It's a lot easier just to get it from DC. Your mixing boards, just use scrap cardboard wherever you can pick it up at. I always carry some extra in the van. Like I said, I like to carry one extra of just about everything. The plastic pails that I talk about, plastic tubs, Those are good for putting resin in. You'll find those from LBI. Put resin in there, and when it hardens in there, then all you got to do is bend the tub and the stuff falls out. That's good to use for your polyester resin. Another good thing is the DeVilbiss spray gun lube. Oh, that's great. Keep your gun lubed up, keep your gun clean, and think like a Marine. That's the weapon that you're going to use in the field, and if it malfunctions in the field, you have to know how to strip it down with your eyes closed and put it back together again and make it work. There's a lot of different problems you're going to run into. If it starts spitting, it doesn't close up and seal. It can drip. It can spit a little bit. Your airbrush can do the same thing. Usually, if you just back it off, open up the fluid tube, and push a bunch of material out through it at once, whatever's in there will come through. But that's the importance of filtering the stuff before it goes into the cup, is so these things don't end up in your gun and clogging things up. Now, always carry an extra cream etch with you. You'll see that on your in the manual. Now you're going to see a Marston paint can opener. You can use a big screwdriver, but I find the paint can opener works a lot better. The WISS, W-I-S-S, the heavy duty shears, you've probably seen those on, or you'll see one of those on the video. I have those to cut things that every once in a while need to be cut in the field, like if the hose breaks on the Croy, you'll need that. They're like a super duty shear. They cut everything from tin to wire and whatever, but I carry those just for that purpose. Your Steinel dual temp heat gun, you'll also see me using that on the demonstration videos. All you need is the dual temp. They've got several different models, but just get the dual temp. You don't need any attachments with it or anything. It's an excellent, excellent heat gun. I've had one for years and years, and I went through a Wagner heat gun in about 2 months. Your single speed Dremel or Craftsman Moto tool, carry an extra one with you all the time, because you're going to get out there and it's going to go bad. If you've got a Dremel, you can send it back to the company for repair. If you've got a Craftsman, send it to Dremel for a repair. They repair them and send them back to you. It's not worth buying a new one, but always have an extra one on hand. That's why it's good to buy them at Sears, because they're a lot cheaper, and you can get all your bits there as well. A conversion table is important to have with you. Like you've seen, I'm not a mathematical genius, and I need to have it with me so I can just look at it instead of trying to figure it out on the job. Your nitrile gloves are very important to always have an extra pair on hand, because when they go, you never know when they're going to go. It's just whenever the solvents work their way through them, and all of a sudden you're missing a finger. As far as the Eureka Mighty Mite goes, you might find another vacuum around that you like better, but that one is a real powerful, small machine that works wonderful, and at 80 bucks, it's a real good buy. That's the best thing I've found. You can use whatever you want, but I fully recommend that one. Your non-freeze tub, that's self-explanatory, and I've already mentioned that in the lecture series here. The 5-minute epoxy that's listed in your fiberglass tub, you can get that from AdTech, and actually I found very few uses. I found more uses for it around the home than I have out in the field. But if you are out in the field and you need something glued together, that 5-minute epoxy is awful nice to have on hand. So is that bond and fill. I've even repaired a Dremel in the field with bond and fill. The radio, I hope, is self-explanatory. It can get real boring in people's bathrooms. Now the Porter Cable ROS, you want to get the regular pad plus their contour pad. This is an amazing machine. It's going to save your wrists, your knuckles, your tendons, your elbows. It's going to save you wearing skin off your hands. It's going to save you a lot of time. Experiment with it. The contour pad, you can go right down an outside radius, a convex radius, on a fiberglass tub and take that thing right down there and sand it down with 320. And if you're repairing a fiberglass tub that has had tracks on it and there's holes in it, repairing the dam is great. It's also good if you've got to do a lot of fill work on somebody's dam because they took the tracks off and chipped it up or whatever. And it's also wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to use. Put 100 grit on it, 100 grit 5-inch disc on the pad, either the contour pad or the regular flat pad, and remove silicone on a dam with it. If some people just go nuts with that silicone stuff. But anyways, if they've got a lot of it on the dam, instead of trying to scrape and sand it off by hand, just go out and get your ROS, slap a 5-inch 100 grit disc on there, grab a couple extra discs, go back in and sand all that stuff off the dam. Save yourself a bunch of hassle. Your finish sander, you can get a Black & Decker. You don't have to get the Milwaukee. You can get a Black & Decker. You're not going to use it that much. But get one that's it's got a pretty high, what do they call those, not RPMs, I think it's RPOs. They're the number of orbits per minute. And your Makita sander polisher, you can find several different kinds of sander polishers out there. I really wouldn't recommend a Black & Decker low model like a homeowner's model or anything. Try and stick with the professional. There's resin discs available for the sander polisher, but those things will cut through sheet metal real quick, and if you touch acrylic or fiberglass with them, it's like zing, it's gone. The only time I've ever had to use the Makita as a sander instead of as a buffer was one time somebody tried to repair a crack in the bottom of a tub with some epoxy, and I would have been there for days and days, and I put a resin disc on that sander, and I was able to save myself hours of work and a lot of backache. But the Makita sander polisher, if you want to go with a buffer only and stick with the ROS, you can do that. Like I said, the times you'd use it as a sander with resin discs is pretty slim. The multi-plug reels, have 2 of those on hand, and you'll find that in your inventory list here. And you're going to need 2 of them occasionally, and when you're out on repairs with a 100-foot outdoor extension cord on a reel, you're going to go out on repairs sometimes, and it's going to be new construction, and the only power source in this $500,000 6-story house is down in the basement. You're going to be stringing cord out upstairs and around corners and everything else, so you carry that 100 feet of cord with you. Your Milwaukee 3/8 reverse close quarter drill. You can try a battery operated drill if you want by Black & Decker or whomever. But this one you're going to be putting through a lot of torturous hours of work. So get a good quality one. The close quarter drill, it's got an odd shape to it, but it's real nice for getting down around those corners in tubs, where a regular drill would be a lot more difficult to work with. But if you've got a regular drill that's powerful enough and it's got the
reverse and so on, use that one, save yourself some money. I always carry an extra gallon of acetone and 50-watt reflector lamps and a Tyvek suit, because if I have to do a lot of compounding with the buffer, I use I'll put on the Tyvek suit, because otherwise you walk around smelling like compound the rest of the day, and that Tyvek suit will keep it off of you. You might smell a little bit like compound, but at least it won't be driven into your clothes. I think we're just about ready to wrap it up. The only thing I want to talk about that I can think of is on the Croy. Get the Croy with the remote. It's much easier to use. The cup is back in this hand and the gun is up here. You can turn that gun upside down and go around with it, and you'll see how I use it. But if you buy it without that remote, the cup is not attached to the gun and you can't turn it upside down. And try and do, you know, that inside damn wall with, you know, without turning the gun upside down. Good luck. Your Dayton Venturi exhaust fan, use that as often as you can. Make sure you get it taped into the windows good. The Speed Air direct drive compressor that I'll recommend that you get is the best I've ever found, and it's got the best price on it I've ever found for a compressor. It's a great little machine to have. Your airbrush, you might be able to find only Badger airbrushes. If you're going to get a Badger airbrush, get a medium-sized needle with it. I personally prefer Pagets. They're larger, they're simpler, they're not as fragile. And I really do prefer the Paget Type E airbrush with, I keep a couple of number 3 heads and needle assemblies, and one number 1 and one number 5 on hand, because I use the number 3 just about all the time. Make sure you get a reamer with it, and you'll see how I clean it out on the demonstration tapes. And I think that just about wraps it up. So from this point on, you'll probably be looking at the demonstration tapes, and all I can say is that with these demonstration tapes, you've got more training and more information than I had. It's taken me years to compile all this, and it's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of experimentation and a lot of frustration. And what you're getting for $1,000 probably cost me $20,000, plus a whole lot of frustration and time, like I said. Stick with it. There's going to be times when you don't think you want to, or you don't think you can, but you can, and you can make a good living at it. Remember, stay small. One thing with this business, if you think you're going to grow and get big and have a lot of employees out there, forget it. This is not the kind of business to do that. There's people out there that do it, but their reputation suffers greatly for it, because these people, they'll hire young kids and go out there, and an employee of a company in this industry could ruin you, could put you out of business. If you're going to hire anybody, it's going to take you at least a month to train them. If you're going to do it right, at least a month. Now, if you want them just to go out there and work on rental units or something like that, go ahead and use them that way. There's people that take a crew into hotels and do tubs, a whole floor at a time, and do it in production method, where you production line method, where you got one guy going down and prepping it, one guy going down and masking it, and then one guy coming down and shooting it with the primer, and another guy coming down and shooting it with
the top coat. But that's pretty rare. This is a kind of business where it's a good business if you're willing to work hard at it, and also if you want to stay small. You're going to do better that way than you will if you get greedy and think you're going to hire people and sit back and call the shots. The only shots you're going to be calling is the ones where angry customers are calling you because and shooting at you because this employee out there is doing such a rotten job. Because when 5 o'clock comes, this employee wants to leave and go home. Whereas if you're out there and you run into problems on a job and 5 o'clock comes, you can't just stop and leave a tub halfway done. You've got to finish it. And if you got to work until 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night because you're stuck on a job you don't want to have to come back on because you're 50 to 100 miles away from home, you're going to have to stay there and do it. An employee wouldn't do that for you. So if there are any questions, feel free to call me. Like I said, my rates are going to be $1 a minute when you call, and I will call you back, collect, and then I will charge $1 a minute. And if you want me on site for help or training of any kind, I can't imagine why you would. I'm going to charge you the stated charges I believe it's $325 for an 8-hour period. Anything over 8 hours is $40 an hour, and that would be plus expenses of travel, food, meals, lodging, all that good stuff. But I really can't imagine any need for you to call. All you got to do is get out there and try it. Now, before you go out and make an appointment to do somebody's tub that's going to pay you to do it, do a relative's tub. Do your own tub. But, you know, just remember that any mistake you make on a bathtub, you can fix it. Now, if you melt the surround or something with a solvent, or you know, you warp it with a heat gun, that's another story. But practice on your own tub or on a relative's tub. You can put it on and then you can strip it off. But try and do it so you don't have to strip it off. If you get some runs and sags, repair them. It's great practice. Then when you feel you got a handle on it, because all the guns are different, you're going to have to find out how to adjust the fluid to your level of spraying. Mine's a half a turn back, and you put the air cap right even, or the nozzle right even with the air cap, and put your air control at about 3/4 of the way around, which would be at about between 10 and 11 o'clock, and that's a good median point to start from. Read the CROI instructions, read all the instructions that come with your equipment, learn about them, and you know, companies spend a lot of time having these technical writers and research people get this information together for you, because regardless of how silly some of these technical manuals may sound, the companies really do want you to know how to use their products because they want to sell them. So remember to read it and learn about your equipment before you do it. Other than that, good luck on looking through the demonstration manuals, and I'll see you there. Bye.